Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 147. We are back from NAMM. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk all kinds of gear that I saw. We've got some video demos of a few of the things that I checked out. And then, if time permits, we're going to talk in our round robin third-party plugins versus stock plugins. Whys, why nots, and wheres. That's what Curtis put there. That's an interesting conversation. I think that's a good thing to talk about because it's easy. You know, we're talking NAMM, right? A lot of products and things to buy and all that type of stuff. It's easy to get caught up in needing new gear and stuff, but sometimes stock is all you need, at least in my opinion. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is my Audionautic co-pilot, Curtis. What's going on?
It's good to see you, mate. Yeah,
you as well. It's been a minute, I know.
It's been a minute. I haven't seen you since before NAMM, if not longer than that. So yeah,
quite a bit before NAMM, I think. Yeah.
It's good. We have been properly for the first time. Everything once upon a time was going into Ableton, and now things is coming out from Ableton and then back in. I'm looking at sequencing and lining things up. So there's a lot of latency. I'm trying to build like a live psytrance set.
That's exciting.
Yeah, like Psy is an interesting thing. I love Psy, big fan of psytrance, and it's all very MIDI. It's all very plug-in based. It's all very perfect, which is very different to what Psy was, say, 20 years ago. And so I'm trying to find
me. What's different there? What was the difference then at the time?
It was a lot more chaotic. I think it was less produced. I think if you look at psytrance today, it's all very properly produced in terms of like anti-phasing and literally cutting out sections of a bar for spill between kick and bass to ensure there's absolutely no crossover.
Oh, so like what's it called? Not just clean, but there's that one term for it. I'm blanking on it. I forget, but like super clean in terms of production.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah,
super clean, and the producer in me knows that you can hear everything's in the box. If that makes sense, it's all plugins, it's all Serum, it's all Vital, it's all MIDI, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want to try and create. I've got a lot of analog stuff, and I've got analog emulation stuff, and I want to see what can happen if you are creating psytrance in real time, live, with actual instrumentation, and whether or not that can work. So that's where my head's been in. That's where my head's been in recently. It's just a lot of making MIDI, routing MIDI, and then making it and sending it out. Like the S1, you have been playing around with the S1 over NAMM, right? We're going to talk about that later. That's a beautiful little beast for what I'm making here. So there you go. That's the one. Yeah. So yeah, and as much as these two got sidelined quite quickly when the Tascam 12 came in, they're coming back straight back into the thing. So yeah, nice. Yeah. That's where we're at. That's where we're at.
That's cool.
What about yourself? I mean, you've been to NAMM. Have you had much time to produce, or has it been all about going to NAMM and consolidating after NAMM?
Well, the weekend I'll be doing with all the samples I got. I'm going to make a beat live, I think, with the 404, all the samples, and then with the S1 maybe. And I'll talk about the S1 when we get there. But yeah, I've been busy, man. I mean, NAMM was crazy. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of meetings with brands, that, like the companies and all that, to showcase for them to show us and me for my channel the gear. And I got to check out a lot of cool stuff. But haven't gotten a lot of time in the studio, so I'm looking forward to it. Yesterday and today, I've been messing with a couple pieces of gear that I'm gonna cover soon. S1 being one of them, and yeah, it's fun. It's like I still just want to go back to the SP though, you know, or like the P6. Like it's nice, kind of what you're saying about that, the imperfection that you're chasing, to get back to that for psytrance. It's like I just love that about what you can do with like a sampler. You know, it's gritty, it's not perfect, there's like, you know, the loop might be a little off or something, but there's just something so authentic in capturing the moment, which I really like about that. Yeah, so we'll get there, but I have been enjoying that, and then just a lot of teaching, so that's been fun too. Kind of the different levels of teaching, and then teaching production is really cool because that's I think the most fun, teaching production, right? Because like guitar, it takes a while to teach, you know, because you got to get the fingers and the dexterity. With production, you can be like, look at this synth, let's move this filter, and he goes, and then it's like, oh, that's awesome, you know. It's a lot of fun. So I've been really enjoying that. But yeah, NAMM took the prominent or the bulk of my time, so I think we should move right into that because there is a lot that we got to see. So I don't know if you got to check the docket and what we're talking about, but is there anything you want to start with? Anything that caught your eye specifically?
Well, it happens to be the thing at the very top of our list. The stylophone for me. That's something that I looked at and went, so let's start with that. Let's take
all right. All right. So before we show the video, I need to give a little preamble because I had a second video that was 3 minutes of sound design with just the DS2, which is the drone synth, but it wouldn't upload onto StreamYard. And I couldn't send it to this computer before we went live. So I'll try and maybe post that to the Discord or something after. But I got to check out the DS2 and then the filter synth or whatever it's called, the CPM DF8, I believe is the name. And so the video I have is the combination of both of them. And actually, similar to how we've met on Instagram, right? There's someone else I know from Instagram, Dan, who's a musician with a really awesome modular setup and stuff. He does some work with them and he was there. So we met up and he demoed it for me. So do we want to check out, before I talk about them, do we want to check out this little demo of, it's kind of crazy what it does. Maybe we should talk about these synths before we demo it. Because what it's doing is basically like just messing with the frequency and resonance to get these like birds chirping, and then it kind of gets more controlled at the end. So let me know. Do you want to talk about it first or just check out this crazy demo first?
Bring it up. Let's tell the story. Let's tell people what we're playing with here. I've shared the screen.
Let's do that. So this is the DS2 analog drone synth. I believe they had this up at NAMM last year. I'm going to move my mic a little closer. But it didn't come out until like really recently. So almost $300. 2 analog oscillators, 2 analog sub oscillators, 2 filters, 14 LFO waveforms, 2 LFO wave selectors, 7 LFO routing switches, 5 LFO depth attenuators. There's a lot here. Basically, it just drones, right? And then you can move all these different knobs, and it's semi-modular, so you can fit it into a rack if you've got something, you know, Euro rack, anything like that. There's effects built in. It's just crazy. I mean, what I was doing with it was getting these like bass tones and then slowly moving it around, and you get these crazy bleeps, bloops, like all this stuff. And for me, it's one of those things where you just kind of get lost in the sound design, like just sit with it. We're going to talk all kinds something's playing. Is that you?
Yeah, it was the feedback.
It's like, why am I hearing myself? And we'll get to the chat in just a minute, guys. Sorry about that. We'll run to the chat and say hi to everybody in just a second. But let's just talk this drone synth. So that longer video I had was me just messing with this bass patch and doing all these changes, and then it slowly transformed into this just complete chaos with like resonant peaks just kind of ringing out at all these different times, and then you could kind of control the duration of them and the amount of them with the LFOs. It's really just fun to get lost in. And then for me, what I would think is if I were to have this, I would just hit record in the DAW or on a sampler, play a bunch of different things, tweak a bunch of settings for like, 10, 15 minutes, because you can get lost in it easy. And then slowly go through that and find little segments you like and chop those up into little samples you can put into chromatic mode or just play as a one shot, something like that, or in the background. So yeah, I really like that. And then when you combine it, can you see if they have up the DF8, the filter one? So this is the drone synth, but they also have another synth that you can combine it with. Okay, while you do that, I'm going to play this bit. So then Dan showed me putting them together. Oh yeah, one other thing about the drone synth, you can put a keyboard to it. It has, what is it, key tracking, pitch tracking, whatever, and you can play notes on it. You have to do a little stuff with like the LFO and the pitch and all that to get it to play the notes properly and stuff, because I started tweaking it and then you just lose all sense of being able to use the keyboard. Dan had to rein it back in, so just note that. But you can do that. Now when you do that though, it's still just droning. It's just going to keep droning. So if you play a note, you can't let go and it stops. It like you play it and it just keeps going until you play the next note, or if you move things and stuff. Is this the other one that you got pulled up here?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the DF8. So I don't have all the info about this one, but he was playing it together, and it's like much more. I think it's all filters or something like that, but you can do all this stuff. So if you want to see if they have some info about that one up, I'll play this video. It's like 19 seconds, but we'll check out what Dan has to show us with these two together.
So right now, basically we're just hearing filters. I'm not really running the oscillators through. They're at a really low pitch. Basically, we're just hearing filters squeal around and making some random little bird chirps. But if we turn the self-resonating filters off a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to show more. I've got one with like some crazy bass sounds I was doing and stuff, but it just didn't send. So check the Discord after and we'll show that. But in the interim, were you able to pull up anything about the DF8?
I've got I've got Synthtopia up here.
Perfect. Okay, we'll just run through that quick because he ran through it, but I was like just mesmerized at the sound of them working together. So I kind of zoned out for a second, entranced by all of that. But it was really cool putting them together. And then as he slowly started bringing in some more sounds and stuff, like it changed completely. All right, so what have we got? Read us about the DF8. I think you stopped sharing your screen though.
The DF8. I'll bring it up before I start. Hang on, here we go. So the DF8 here. This is just straight from Synthtopia. Let me zoom in. Move this across here. So we've got 2 analog filter channels with high resonance self oscillation, 8 filter types per channel, 2 ADSR envelopes, 4 envelope triggering and gate modes, 2 VCAs, 2 white noise sources, 3 envelope depth 10 verters, 4 bypass switches, 1 sample and hold, tape delay, vintage style apparently, 14 modular patch points, 3-in-1 mixer, 2 stereo outputs, a built-in speaker, and it can take 6 AA batteries, or it can be put into a Euro rack in there as well.
Yeah, they both have speakers, I believe. They both have speakers. They're a lot of fun put together. I don't think that one's out yet, though. But the drone synth, I wish I had that bass video. I will put it in the Discord because, man, I was like, oh, this is perfect for getting some nasty bass lines and just tweaking everything. You get some crazy stuff. So we'll throw that in the Discord after. And the Discord is in the description if you want to head there. It's open for all. It's a great little place to talk. But let me say hi. We didn't say hi to everybody in the chat. So I want to mention what's up to Cresshead. Abby, one of our patrons, is also in the chat. How are you? We've got Smiling Errors, where it says live. Yeah, we might have been a couple minutes late, but you know, it's Audionautic time. That's how we do things. Smiling Errors also says about your bit about the Psytrance. The on-the-grid epidemic will suffer its own, he put percent, but he fixes it perfect demise. But I actually think percent demise kind of works because it's like 100% quantized, you know? I kind of like that better. Yeah, I agree with you, though, both of you. I think, like, when you quantize everything, it's just so boring, right? Like, even if you set, like, on a drum machine, you just set the hi-hats all the way across without any sort of velocity changes. It's just kind of there. You add some micro timing, do velocity changes, things like that. And all of a sudden, it just has so much more of a groove. So I get that. Let's see. Sleeping State says, the thing I love about analog drones is they have their own notch cycle sequences that exist separate from the BPN on the DAW, lets it breathe in its own space. Yeah, that's what I was kind of trying to say about the when I changed that bass patch into like whatever weird bleeps and stuff like that it was doing. There's no semblance of BPM. Like you're just changing it based on the LFO rates and things like that. And you can do a lot of interesting micro timing things in terms of when you do put it into a BPM, like if you chop it up and throw it into a sampler or your DAW, you have all these interesting micro time interactions with that and the drums that would be more on grid and stuff. So it's really fun. That's why for me, this synth really caught my eye, because you can just do fun sound design. Because how fun is it to just kind of tweak knobs, right? You know, move things around and get these crazy sounds, and then get those sounds recorded. And now you've got all that you can just kind of throw into whatever you're making. So yeah, you said this caught your eye. What about it caught your eye?
I have always wanted a little drone box. We have plenty of things that go bleep bloop and change tone. But I like the idea of just having a box that creates a drone and you mess with the parameters. For now, I've got the iPad Model 15 application where you hit hold, and then it's the It's the old school Moog, and you can play around with the parameters
Yeah.
while you're doing it. But I'd love a little hardware box. It's small, relatively cheap. It's battery powered if you want it to be, which is something really exciting. This more and more of these things are becoming battery powered and portable and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I love drones. I love that single note and playing and the very much exploring the less is more situation. That's why I take it myself.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. It was the first thing I checked out at NAMM. I went there first. Like when I got there, I went over there. I was supposed to do this guitar demo and they canceled. So I was like, hey, Dan, are you around? He's like, yeah. So I went right to there. And then we just did like 30 minutes just tweaking knobs on these synths and just seeing what happens. And you get such cool sounds out of it. And I think, yeah, there's 2 oscillators. So you can even get, depending on how you do the pitch and stuff, you could get, you know, like a fifth or something like that. So you could kind of get a semblance of a chord, you know, the start of a chord with that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. That synth was awesome.
It looks like it. Wouldn't mind having one of those just there, just play around with, you know, like as Superhand says, the longer the note, the more dread. And I love making just the long dreaded sounds of just this long drawn out ambience. Essentially, it's really good, you know.
Yeah, I was planning in each section on the video I made to have the sound of the demo that I did like run through it, but when I did that and it was just this like nasty bass tone with these crazy sounds happening, I was like, this is too ominous to be talking about how cool this thing is. So I was like, I better not do that, because it was really cool, but it was like, you know, just this like pulsating bass line just like underneath me rambling about how cool it is and stuff. And I was like, you know, maybe that's not the way to go.
Existential dread.
Yeah, I was like, that's right. If that's the right mix there. But before we move on, though, I want to mention Smiling Ear said, at the risk of being to Kilohertz what Mike is to Ableton, did you chat with Kilohertz? I did mention in the Discord, that was my plan for Saturday, to do the software type of stuff. And I didn't get to go Saturday. I had to catch up on editing and then watch my son because my wife had to work and watch him Thursday and Friday when I went to NAMM. So I did not get to go. I briefly stopped at Sound Toys, saw there was a plugin I had never seen before and was like, I got to check back with that. And then never did. But I saw, I think it was Smiling Ears posted that there is a new Sound Toys. It's like a reverb or something. So that is what I saw. But yeah, I did not. I apologize, Smiling Ears. I was hoping to, and then I couldn't. Also want to say hello to FCC. What's going on? One of our label mates. What's up? And we've got Thomas, one of our patrons. Hey, how are you, Thomas? Great to see you. Yeah. And yeah, Sleepy State says, shame about the Kilohertz. I think you will love them when you eventually look into them. Yeah, when I have a moment, that's my plan. I really wanted to go there. I saw them. They were actually pretty close to Stylophone, a couple like booths over. I couldn't make it with all the meetings I had those 2 days. So, but it's all right. I will check them out. If there's anything you think I should start with, Smiling Ears and Sleeping State, let me know. All right, Curtis, anything more on the drone synth?
No, not on that. I think there's everything. There's a lot to get through. So do you want to move over to the compacts? Yeah,
let's do it. Let's move over to Roland. Now, I was stoked about this. I wanted to check out the compacts, and I got to talk briefly with one of the, I don't know if you'd call it designer engineers who does the updates for the SP404 and did some stuff with the P6. And so I made sure to mention, hey, can we get multiple like step sequencing at the same time? Because as it exists now on the P6, if you hold down to do like a micro timing change, it's not like the Digitact where you can hold multiple and it will affect all of them. It's per single step, and so it takes forever. So I was like, any chance we could get that? And he said, not at this time, but we'll see about that. But yeah, he was the one that I guess worked a lot on the Koala SP integration, which is awesome for anybody that uses both of those. But yeah, so I got to talk with Jared, a rep there, who was showing me all about the compacts. Now, I have the P6. I love the P6, but I've never really ventured into the other ones, being the T8, which is based off of the TR-808, the S1, which is based off of one of my favorite synths, which I have another clone of, the SH101. That's the MS1 from Behringer. And then the other one, the J6, I believe is what it's called. But that's like I think it's kind of based off of the Jupiter, but it's a chord synth. And then they had some other ones, but those are the three we focused on. And he showed me some really cool little tips and tricks for each one. If you check out my YouTube video, I have a few additional little sound videos of it. But one of the things I really liked, and I'm like, I really need a T8 now. You can sidechain the effects in the T8 to any instrument on the T8. So like if you wanted to sidechain it to the kick and you do a 4 on the floor, you get this pumping reverb. But when he did it with the delay, there was this really cool sound. So that's one of the things I plan to sample and flip in Saturday's video. But I really like the sound of the T8 as someone who loves the TR-808. Have you checked this one out, Curtis, the T8?
I've played around with it. I haven't got one. It is a lot of fun. We had this discussion last week on the show. It's this notion of, it's that very familiar, very recognizable sound, straight first and foremost. And then it was the discussion of, do you want to keep those sounds in, and do you want to keep playing around with those sounds if they're there for so long? But yeah, it's a cool little box. Like, this entire range is just incredibly cool and incredibly fun. There's so much power within them, right? And they've gone solidly down that Pokemon route of you've got to catch them all to kind of make a full ensemble.
That's something actually that was really interesting. I didn't realize. So if you chain them together, right? Like, you can chain them with the IO. Even if, like, let's say they're all going into, or let's say you do T8 into S1 into the P6, you can lower the volume of the S1, the one that's in the middle, right? And it won't mute the T8. Even though it's being sent into all of the audio from the T8's being sent into the S1. So you get individual mutes with the volume knobs. That was the craziest thing I saw of it. I was like, that is so cool, because you could be doing this live performance and you can mute, like track mutes almost, but on each of these individual things. And Jared had mentioned that they took time to really do that so that you could have this sort of like live performance mutability. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And then the J6, this one seems like the most intricate to learn how to program, but there's some really trippy things you could do. He showed me if you change. So if you look on the J6, that's the one on the top left, where the purple cable's coming out of. You see that bar? Yeah, see where your magnifying glass is? You see what looks kind of like a guitar fretboard with those lit up? Yeah, so that's like the resolution of how often the chords are playing, and you can change the variation of them and things like that. But you can actually go in and change the resolution. And then what he advised is if you treat each of those lights as like the one of a bar, or, like of a quarter note, that's the one you can do. It's like, it really allows you to kind of tweak how you approach the chords that are playing. But we got some trippy like chord progressions or chord strumming styles out of that little trick. But that one seems like the biggest mystery to crack, like in terms of learning it. But it felt like once you kind of got it, it has a lot of potential. So I thought that one was really cool, especially for getting samples from. But you've got the S1. So before I talk about it, what you've had it for a couple weeks now, right? Since Christmas.
Yeah, I got it around Christmas times. This guy up here. Yeah, it's a powerful little beast, and it does a lot. And I'm still brushing the surface of it. But there's a lot that you can do. Not just you can live record, and you can step sequence record the arcs that you want to put in, or the lead lines that you want to put in, which is obviously great. You then can manipulate both the waveform, different oscillators in there as well, including the noise. There is a function in there where you can create risers and down sweeps as well within it, right? So you've got the arc line playing, and then you can bring in the noise to create a sense of a rise or build a tension and release a tension for live performance in that sense. So again, coming back to that notion of of the live performance, like you're saying, like the mute groups and stuff like that, it's very much geared towards the same thing. And there's a lot there, a lot of menu diving. The thing is, with all of these things, there's a lot of menu diving, but I think that that's a fair trade-off considering how powerful they are in terms of the boxes and what they do.
Yeah, that is one of the things. It's like there's compared to like a Volca or even the boutiques from Roland beforehand, it's like they've crammed so much into these and shrunk the form factor even more. It's a lot to learn, right? But I mean, I've only really feel like I've come to comprehend the P6 because I've had it the longest. Like that's the one I have, and it took a little while for it to click, but once it does, it's like there's so much in this tiny little form factor you can take, you know, so it's a lot of fun in that way. One thing too with the S1, you can record automation for the effects and like filter sweeps and things like that. So, and you can even record LFO changes. So you could do, if you set the LFO to the filter, you could automate in like a 64-step pattern or whatever, changes to the LFO that's kind of opening up and closing the filter in these, you know, synced or not synced to the BPM ways. There's so much fun with that. Yeah, so I actually got to borrow an S1 from someone I met at NAMM. So I'm checking this one out. I want to link it with the P6. Not Smiling Ears, I apologize. Smiling Ears said something else, but let's start with FCC. FCC says, I have the S1, very cool. Yeah, you've had it for a little bit, right? Do you use it much, FCC, in your music, like what your recorded music? And if so, are you sending MIDI in, or are you starting in the hardware and sending that in and doing stuff to it? Let's see. Sleeping State says, tips and tricks are great, but we should really figure out ways to make this easy in the age of user interfaces. I think that was a bit earlier, but I mean, the tips and tricks that they were showing me were for kind of navigating these and interesting ways to navigate it. But I get it. I mean, that's the one thing, like all the gear you get, it's kind of, you know, like it's not universal, obviously. It varies per brand and all that. But yeah, the more different types of gear you get, the more you have to learn from each of these, which takes a little time. But in my opinion, it's rewarding once it clicks, because then you can just kind of do all of this away from a computer and have all this stuff. One other thing with the T8, I know I'm going completely off, but it has a 303 bass synth in it. So it has the drum tracks, like the 808 drum tracks, and then there's a bass line or like lead line you could do. So you can kind of get a 2-in-1 there. So if you have that with the S1, it's like you've already got, you know, you can do your ARPs, your lead or bass, and the drums. I thought that was cool. I like seeing the way they're kind of bridging the gap between these, but that goes on with what you're saying about it's like Pokemon, you know, you have to catch them all to like achieve the true performance thing. Cresshead says, any Roland compact, first thing to add is color-coded trimmer topper knobs. I get that. I don't have any. I've always wanted to grab some for the SP2, but I haven't. The one thing that's nice on the S1 is that the oscillators are green, like there's a circle around it that's green, and then the filter stuff is orange, which is convenient, but that would help a lot, I can imagine. Let's see, where else did I skip? Another one. Yeah, FCC says in the 70s that lot would have filled a whole room. Yeah, that's crazy, right? And even like the original SH101, which is only monophonic, is a much bigger synth, probably closer to what this MS1 is, which is a clone of it. But then this S1 shrinks it to this little thing. I mean, yeah, you have this keyboard, right? But it's 4-voice polyphony, which I thought was huge, because I love the SH101. And being able to play chords with those sounds you can get, that's like, okay, that's awesome, you know?
It's good.
Yeah, let's see what else we have. Go ahead, Curtis.
Well, just on that note of the small keys on the S1, on the front of it, it seems a bit off-putting, right? Because you're doing that. But I think that's quite clever in that sense, because it's forcing you to, again, coming back to the sense of less is more, and it's forcing you to really be precise with the keys and how you're playing it in that sense. A lot of fun can be had, at least in my experience with it, is linking everything up and just playing just small little movements and keeping it down to a minimum. It's really good fun.
Yeah, that's true. And I also want to say, as we get back into the chat, B. Jaminson's Birth is here, says, I want the microcosm to use with my SP404 Mark II. Did you buy another SP? Because I remember you've sold it like 3 or 4 times, haven't you? It's one that just keeps coming back to you. But I don't blame you. I could never sell mine, so I couldn't even get to that point, but I get it. Sleeping State says, can you attach MIDI controllers to their ecosystem? Life is easier when you have buttons and knobs reassigned. Yes. Well, I know you can with the P6, so I'm sure you can with those. It's got MIDI IO. So it's just 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, 1/8 inch. So you have to get
3.5 mil jacks. Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah, you gotta get. This isn't it. I don't know where my MIDI cables are, but oh, here you have to get this little adapter. But this is the B type. I think you have to get A for Roland, because Polyend and stuff uses B. I didn't even know there were different types of MIDI converter things, but there are. So there we go. Cresshead says 8 animation lanes in the S1. Yeah, here, this is huge. Yeah, Cresshead, 6 octave range on the bass synth in the T8. Yeah, so you can get the bass, you could do a lead instead, you know, you can do a lot there. I like to see, you know, we talk about these crazy expensive synths, and then we like to cover a lot of these budget synths. And one thing that I hope we see from other companies is cramming all this, you know, like there you get a lot in these for like $220. So I hope we see some more of that, like getting the drums and that monophonic synth on the T8 is like, well, now you've got a drum machine, but you can have your bass on there too. So I like that. Let's see what else we've got before we move on. Yeah, it does use the Type A. That's what I thought. That's what I was saying, because the one I was showing right here, I have a Type A somewhere, but this is Type B. It looks pretty much the same. But yeah, you want to make sure when you're buying MIDI converters and stuff that you get the right type to whichever one you're checking out. Okay, there's a lot of other chat. I'll try to go over that as we go, but we should probably move on. What do we have next there, Curtis?
The ROLI Airwave.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, let me just show you a quick little jam that it's only 4 seconds, but this is with I don't know if the J6 was playing at this time in the clip I made, but it's the T8. I was just like moving stuff, doing a lot of variation and rolls and stuff. And then the S1 doing this crazy. We automated the LFO and the filter to do this like chord sweep. Yeah, so that was quick. Just a quick one. I only had a few seconds of the video part of that, and then the phone died, the backup phone that I was recording. But I have some other stuff if you check my video on that. Let's see. What are we doing next, did you say? ROLI?
The ROLI Airwave.
ROLI piano and Airwave. This thing was awesome. I really like it. So the piano is a MIDI keyboard. It's, I think, semi-weighted keys. I think we just have pulled up here the Airwave. I'll talk about that in a minute. I have some video of playing them together. So they work best, in my opinion, as a combo. But the piano is just like a MIDI keyboard, but it lights up, and you can do all this cool stuff with like their app. I think that like it's got a lot of merit in terms of education purposes for piano teaching and stuff like that. And they have I think the M is the smaller one, and then the main one is like 49 key. It does have the MPE, the polyphonic expression and stuff like that. But when you pair it with this Airwave, so I'll share this again. The Airwave here it's like you feel like a Jedi or something. It tracks your hand movements. I believe they're saying it's using AI, but I might be wrong on that. But I think it said it's got AI, but it tracks your hand movements, and then everything you do over the piano, it or over the MIDI piano, you know, the ROLI piano, like that guy was using. Yeah, it tracks those, and each movement type does a different modulation to your patch. So like if you're using a synth, moving up and down might raise the filter. If you slide side to side, it might, you know, do something to the LFO, and then like you could close your hand and create a gate. And so you could do all this crazy stuff just like right there. I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think that combo would be really cool as well for education, because it's a very fun process. Instead of like reading piano sheet music or something, you're playing notes, and then if you get a sustain pedal, right, a MIDI sustain pedal like for piano, when you hold that, you can let go of the keyboard and then use both hands to do changes to all of that. So before I hear from you, Curtis, I want to just share this. Now, the demo I got, I went out of their audio interface, and I think the cable or something had a little distortion. So the distortion is not from the patch. I tried to clean it up as best I could, but it's going to work well for the samples we do because it makes it sound lo-fi. But it was or is this I can't remember if this is the piano sample or the synth sample. It might be the synth sample, and that one sounds a lot better. But we'll just play that real quick. Yeah, so you can see as I kind of adjust my hands and stuff like that, it's changing. It turned from a synth pad to an arpeggiated sound and all that type of stuff. So I was with this for 5 or 10 minutes, and I mean, I was just having a ton of fun checking out the different patches. And what I liked on the piano patch I had, as you raise it, it becomes a drone. And so you can kind of get that transient of the piano and then bring your hand up and get a drone kind of soundscape underneath it. With Supermassive, that would be a lot of fun. Have to bring that up because that would be awesome. But anyways, Curtis, what are your thoughts on this?
I echo your thoughts when it comes to the educational tool. I think ROLI in general, they're really good with kind of pushing the education side of things, which is really nice. I can see the Airwave being great in a live situation, obviously. very dynamic, very fun, almost magic, a bit like the theremin.
Yeah, that's
in that
exactly.
sense.
I was like, this reminds me of the theremin, but with like
Mm.
cool synth patches you make and stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. I understand exactly why it is as expensive as it is, and it would be lovely to play with one. I'd like to see how varied the hand movements are. I think I haven't, and that's something I haven't done probably enough research in that. But yeah, I'd like to see how different the different patches are and the different macros are when it comes to, is this always going to be a phaser, for example? Is this always going to be a swell? Or
No, they
like
were,
that?
at least from what I saw, they were different because like the piano didn't have that arpeggiation thing, but that synth pad that I showed the video of well, I think it was when I lifted my hand or whatever, it did this sort of, it turned a pad into an arpeggio. And then some of them, if you like shut your hand, it would gate the sound. So you could create like plucks out of a pad.
Cool.
And you could do like, it looks weird, but you could like go like this or something, and it would be doing these like sounds, gated sounds to it, like you're doing a chord arpeggio or something, or like eighth notes or something, like with a gate. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. I was a big fan. So yeah, I would love to check that out more because I thought that was really inspiring for just making sounds, right? Like when you're just, that's what I'm approaching here with all of these things I was checking out is, can I get lost in the sound design for sampling these things, right? That's my goal. Cause I do a lot of sample based music, right? Throw it into the SP or the P6 or, trackers or something like that and just see what happens. So I want to use these to kind of just like have fun and play. And I thought that was awesome. And then I really do think it, in terms of the education part of it, you do teaching too, right? And I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense that having something so fun, and I mean, I don't know if tactile is the right word because you're not actually changing knobs, but you're expressing with your own body to make these changes and things like that. I think it's a lot of fun and makes it really engaging to learn to play this, right? So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Completely 4-dimensional and
Yeah.
very much, if you're trying to create a scenario for a student where the whole point of it is you do something and there's a cause and effect and that triggers something to get them involved in it to create a process, then you can't get much better than that in that regard. And that turns mundane practice into something that could be less mundane and therefore more attainable, for one of
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking too. I really thought that was cool for that. But I think it would be fun for sound design and just having fun playing piano, because I mean, piano is not my favorite instrument. I would rather take a guitar, but having this kind of similarity in that you can, like on a guitar, you can bend a string and get all kinds of expression or vibrato and all that. And with the MPE, you can kind of do that, but being able to like use your hands to really channel what you're feeling, I thought was really fun.
I get that, and I hear where you come from. I understand, and I echo the sense of it being fun. It would be nice. Obviously, the technology is new. I'd like it to be a bit more accessible in terms of its price range, but that's just me being picky and cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Piano M is a little cheaper, the 25 key, but I think you can grab both the piano and the Airwave for like 700 or 800, or is it more? There's like an early bird special or something going on with NAMM. I can't remember what it is.
Piano M right now.
That's the little one, right?
Yeah, it's a little one. You can combine them together. That's 229, and then the piano itself is early bird at 399, usually 600.
Euro dollars.
Euro. And then for both right now, the piano and the Airwave bundle is currently 650, so that's not bad.
Okay.
1,000, that's an early bird deal, so 1,000 normally.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Yeah, and that I guess what I was playing was pre-release. So it's not out yet. Yes,
they have basically pre-sold their first 7 batches. That's what I was reading earlier.
Well, it's cool to see that there's hype and excitement around it, because I think it's something really cool.
Yeah, totally. It's going to be interesting when I'd like to start seeing them out in the wild, so to speak.
Yeah, I want to see
what
what everyone does with it, because I think there's a lot of different ways to use, like a lot of applications for it. So I think it'll be interesting to see it.
I agree. Let's do some chats and then head across to our next bit.
Yes. So let's see. Benjamin since birth says the SP404 Mark II is just me. It's the women I continue to love. Yeah, I get that. Crescent says you also get, I think this is with the compacts, you also get sync in and out and audio pass through and a battery. It's pretty nuts on connection when you compare to Ableton Move. Well, Mike's not here, so he hasn't said anything about that, but Mike, our resident Ableton spokesperson, I guess we can say. But yeah, no, I get you. There's a lot, and each one's like 220. I think they're all the same price for the compacts, but I can't remember.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, they're all around ish the same price. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really cool. Smiling Air says, I'll be genuinely interested if they make the technology available for composer apps. Release my inner Vivaldi. Yeah, we'll see. That'd be cool. All right, we're running short on time, so let's move over to the last one I've got some video for. Now, I didn't get audio of this, and the one wasn't even on, and I don't think it was on at all. But so I checked out at Behringer. They had a booth, pretty big booth, and they had a bunch of things out. But I went for the sole focus of seeing that LM drum, because I love Linn drums, or at least the sample sounds of Linn drum. Never had a chance to check out a real one. And then this one looked interesting because it's 12-bit and it has a sample in. And the sample in, you get that 12-bit artifacting, but you can really gain stage it, like clip it, and get some really cool warmth out of it, you know, like that old school kind of sampling style. Now, I don't know the specs in terms of the sampling, how you can use it, if it's just for chopping to one shots, probably. And that's not something I got to check out. I just kind of like looked at what it had, checked out the sounds. So this is it here. It's $400. Now, Behringer, take of them as you will. I just want to present what I saw. But this is a clone of the Linn drum, which is a incredibly legendary piece of gear. And there's a lot of cool kind of modern twists to it, you know, the LEDs and all of that, but it is 12-bit. They claim it's like true 12-bit, so it's got that really warm sound, you know, the artifacting, all of that. I liked it. Now, I didn't do anything crazy with it. I played it for like 2 or 3 minutes. I couldn't get audio from it or anything like that, but it sounded good. I liked it. And we'll just check out then the other thing that I saw, and I don't know if you pulled this one up, but I also checked out, I mean, I love Profits, right? And I saw this thing that was a huge, you know, like 60 something key, whatever. Yeah, Profit. And I was like, oh, Pro 16. I haven't heard of that one. So I went over to try and play it. Doesn't turn on or anything. I don't think they turned on. You can also see the other thing they announced right above it there, the JT16, which I think is a Jupiter clone. I didn't even look at that one because I was just checking out the Pro 16. So I've got just some like B-roll of these synths and me playing them and stuff. So we'll just show that real quick, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. I forgot I saw the RD09 or whatever too, the 909 clone that they've got. So yeah, just a quick little run through of what I personally saw there. I thought the LM drum sounded good. I had just the headphones on. The noise is crazy on the show floor, so I can't give any sort of beyond first impressions. It was cool. I would love to see more of it. And I'd be really interested to hear those two, the Jupiter and Prophet clones. I think that Pro 16 might be a clone of the Prophet 10. But I don't know. I didn't like check out any of the specs or something. I don't know if you got a chance to see the specs they pulled up. But yeah, you know, Behringer's Behringer. So it's cool to see these. And yeah, I would really like to play more of the LM drum, because it sounded really good for a Linn drum like sound, you know, in that way. And it just seems like it would be a lot of fun with all of the kind of settings of the original Linn drum or Linn drum.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Just to go back what you say, the Pro 16 is a copy of the sequential Prophet 10. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But instead of 10 voices, it's 16 voices.
Yeah.
Is
It's
it? I don't think it was even playable there. I think it was just out. I don't know. It wouldn't turn on when I was there. So, or it wasn't
they're
on, I
not.
should say. I didn't try to turn it on, but it wasn't on. Neither of those two were on, the JT and the Pro.
They say that both of them are. So they are both still in development. They're not available yet, so I believe that those shells are probably just to kind of illustrate what's going down.
Build hype.
Build hype essentially, and to keep the debate alive, keep the debate relevant. Because I mean, always when we bring up this stuff and Behringer and bring them up on the show, there's always that kind of, there's the ethics behind what they're doing and where they're going for it. Like they're creating, emulating some very classic, sought after sounds for a third of the price. The profit 10 is about what, $1,500, something like that.
I think it's a lot more than that. If the reissue, if they did a reissue of the Prophet 10, I can't even remember. Prophet 10. Let's see. $43.99 on Guitar Center.
Oh, there you go. This is a massive barrier to entry, and if people still want to go into hardware as opposed to going into the box, as much as you can question the ethics surrounding cloning, you can't deny that it opens up a massive barrier to entry. Not just for the producer and the independent musician, but also for educational facilities trying to teach people about where these sounds come from and how to make them.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, Sequential Circuits is a smaller company, legendary company, so it's tough. I get it, but yeah, it's tough. This, like, the way that works. I would love to see if this could drive some of these bigger companies to release full, however many key versions of these synths at these lower models, even if the sound is a digital recreation or something. These are, I believe they're analog, or something. These Behringer ones, but it'd be nice to see the real, like the original companies produce versions of it. Cress said in a cheaper budget form, kind of like Gibson and Epiphone, right? Like that's what I want to start seeing. Like I would love to see that, like a Squire to the Fender, an Epiphone to the Gibson, and the guitar lingo. So for those that don't play guitar, like a Squire is like a beginner's or more budget friendly version. They're made somewhere else, this and that, and then the Fenders are made in America, this and that. Or some Fenders are, some still are made in other places and stuff. But I would, that'd be cool to see, in my opinion, but maybe most don't agree. I don't know, but I think that would be cool for these original companies to join in this competition here. Cresshead says a few friends already have the LM drum. They really like it and have started to sample into it. So do you know, Cresshead, by any chance, the sample functionality here is that you sample in and you have to chop it into one shots, or can you kind of like use it as a sampler, like send a melodic loop in on one of the pads or something? I don't know. I haven't checked out its sample functionality besides that you can sample in. It's got the 12-bit sample rate, and you can, gain stage and do all that. Thomas says, I think this is in reference to the LM drum, but if you're asking about the Pro 16 or the JT 16, those didn't have sound. But I only heard the LM drum through headphones with a noisy show floor. I can't give a sort of analysis on that. I'd have to actually like sit there with it. But I think you have to define who anyone is in any of these cases, because someone who just like listens to music that knows 80s music or whatever probably might not know the difference, but someone who does might. Someone who like loves Lindrums or something may notice some changes, or a producer or something. I have to also add this one. Smiley here says, I still miss my Alessis SR16. Isn't that the one that Godflesh used on their early albums? I think it was. I was trying to get some samples of it for one of those challenges we were doing, where I was doing like a Godflesh style song, but I think it is the SR16 that they had. Let's see. Crescent says 1 MB per sample max, mono only. Okay, well that's fun. Tells you that. All right.
So it has sampling, but it's difficult to actually kind of.
Well, not a lot of time, but I'm sure you can get some cool stuff out of it. All right, so that's Behringer. Let us know if anybody checked out videos of it or anything, what you thought of it. But last thing we can talk about is the Yamaha SEQTRAK. Have you checked out the SEQTRAK at all?
I've dabbled in what it can do. It tries to be a kind of somewhat of a bit of a rival to the 133. In that sense, it's an interesting little
I
box.
thought it was too in some way, but as I got to check it out, it is much more groove box than it is sampler. There's only one sample track. The rest
Okay.
are drum. There's 7 drum tracks, I think 3 synth tracks, and then a sample track. And from what I was told in the comments of my video, because I mentioned, I really want to see its sample functionality, they said it's much more like short one-shot samples. Now, this is just what people in the comments were saying. But what was really cool is it's got wireless MIDI, and it has, so like if you look at it, it looks a little daunting when you first look at it. Like, how do you even play this thing? If you look though, there's labeling all over the sides and in the middle, and there's buttons on the sides and all that, and that's like the play button, record, this and that. They're all over there. But when you sync it to the app that I guess is free on everything, the app does all of that. So you can control everything through the app, which I thought was really cool, because like you can make it completely standalone and portable, but then if you want an easier UI and easier navigation, everything's in an app. And I was like, oh, I'd love to see this more, this kind of like hybrid workflow in a lot more gear. Like imagine if you could connect the S1 to an app and it's got everything laid out, or the P6, right? The P6 has tons of different settings and stuff like that. Everything's laid out on an app. Like that would be really cool. I'd like that. It had a really good sound. There were 3 synth tracks, and I think the rep said that there's like 2,000 sounds in there, that you can choose from for like the drums, the synth tones. I don't remember if the synth tones are based off of the other Yamaha synths, like the Reface and all that. They probably are. And then the other cool thing, if you look, can you open one of those pictures so it stops scrolling? That is like distracting me to no end. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So if you look on the right side, there's those 3 kind of like vertical, those are performance settings. And if you look at the knobs to the left of that and the text to the left of that, you can control what effects it's doing. So like, beat, repeat, delays, and all that. And then every pad, from what the rep showed me, has per pad effects as well, or per track effects. So like in the demo I put up on my channel, the kick, I had just cranked the distortion because I was hearing it through headphones, right? And it sounded good at that. And then when I was listening to it back, the kick is just this like crazy distorted mess. And I was like, whoops, did a little too much distortion. But the fact that you could do that much was awesome. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. But Crescent has an interesting point. The app is cool, but how long until the app is no longer supported? I mean, I don't know, but it is not just on iOS and Android. They told me, at least from what they said, it's on Windows, Mac OS, all that. So yeah, at least there's, I don't know, something. And then if they do it open or something, maybe others can keep it running. But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen though, a lot of YouTube videos are without the app. So and I asked the rep, like, can everything you can do in the app, can you do it on just the SEQTRAK? He was like, yep, it's all like 1-to-1. So it might be a little weird with the buttons and stuff, but it is supposedly all doable. So yeah,
Cool.
any thoughts here?
It's an interesting one. I would love to have a play. I don't know very much about it. And so I don't have too much to say about it, but it does look fun, and it is relatively affordable. It's about 10K. So what? It's about, again, $500 ish.
I think it's 400. I want to say
400.
I want to say. Let me Google it.
Which is, again, it's a nice little.
Yeah,
$399. Well, there you go.
Both colors are $399 too.
It's not too much of a barrier to entry, and it's nice. You can trust the Yamaha. You know what they're at, and it's different. I'm sure it can give you something new and something fresh.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I had always thought it was much more sampler, and apparently it is much more groove box than it is sampler. And I still think that's awesome, because I think paired with a sampler, that's a pretty potent combo. Having like the intricacies of programming with all those drum sounds and the couple of synth tracks and stuff, and the little sampler track. But again, I don't know the depths of that sampler track. We didn't mess with that, but yeah, I mean, it seems like it was fun. At first I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with this, but then as I saw how to use it, the workflow did start to make sense. It seems a little like tough at first, but then it's like, oh, okay, I got it. It makes sense. And then I also did check out, what was it called? The Montage, the big, what do they call those big, like the Korg Kronos, those huge workstations. It's like a big
Oh yeah.
piano with a big like
Mhm.
screen and all that. That thing was crazy. I got a bunch of samples from that, like piano sounds, some crazy, every sound, I was going to say sample, every sound on the Montage has an audition that like a sound designer made a sound with it. And those are all crazy. So I sampled a couple of those and stuff. But there's some crazy like orchestral sounds on it. It does seem to be like a direct competitor to the Korg Kronos, if anyone's familiar with that. Like these big piano workstations where you could do everything on it, the drums, this and that. Some cool app crossover too, not the SEQTRAK app, but another app or inside, I think it was Cubase. You can like move patches that you make either in that Yamaha app or in the Montage and like just move them between. So if you're working somewhere else with like a MIDI keyboard and design a sound, you could send that into the Montage and then you have it to work with.
It sounds quite exciting in that regard.
Yeah, it was cool. I liked it. But I mean, those are really expensive. But yeah, the SEQTRAK, Cresthead says Anderton's has it for $229. So that's cool.
That's cool. Again, very low barriers to entry in that. And it's nice to see that we're getting more of that in. As hardware becomes more desired, I suppose, the prices keep going up, which is obviously supply and demand. So it's nice to see these more cheaper boxes come through that we can play around with.
Yeah, and then the last thing I just want to mention, because this is what I couldn't remember, but Cresthead says the Montage Mod X, most of those sounds are in the SEQTRAK. Yeah, the rep kept mentioning like 2,000 sounds you can choose from in the SEQTRAK. So if those sounds are in there, there's a lot of flexibility and some cool, really great sounds in there.
There you go. It's a veritable feast. What were your like general takeaways in that regard from going there for a couple of days?
NAMM in general. So I think NAMM is a really cool place to see what's coming, but I think it's also easy to get caught up in the gas of it, right? The gear acquisition, and it's a tough line for me because I like to stay on top of music technology, and it's really interesting to see what's coming. How are we pushing the boundaries? I really thought, now I didn't go to much of the software. I thought we were going to see and hear a lot more of the buzzword AI, and I didn't. Besides, I guess ROLI is using AI, but I think it's a really cool application of it if it is indeed AI. But I thought we'd see more of that, and we didn't, which, I mean, I guess it's neither good nor bad. I suppose that would be much more of the buzzword and what's trending. Maybe that's for 2026. Like gear has to take a while to catch on. We'll see. But I think it's cool to know what's coming, what might be useful within your workflow. But I also think it's good to remember, most, if not all of this is necessary to make music, right? You can make music with whatever. And music's been made for years and years and years without any of this tech. So it's cool to see, but yeah, it's easy to get lost in that trap of hype and then wanting gear and stuff. But I really like to see where we're going, where technology is going, where instruments are going. Yamaha had this guitar that was trippy and acoustic that had all these built-in effects that you could play. It was really cool, like chorus, delay, a looper. I forget what that guitar was called, but it's an acoustic. I'm going to look it up, but let me know what are your thoughts on NAMM?
It was a nice exercise in separating one's gas from their own production journey. If that makes sense. We often talk about gas, and we often talk about ways in which to curtail gas. And I think for me, witnessing everything from afar, it's that notion of looking at, appreciating it, but not attaching myself to it. Like similar to like feelings and emotions or whatever, we're trained to not attach ourselves to them, but kind of observe them. It was fun to observe them from afar and go, oh, okay, that's really cool. I love what that's doing. But then take a step back and understand that, like you say, I don't really need any of this. And if there's anything that I need, it's to understand the gear that I already have in that sense. It's fun to watch these things unfold and develop, especially in the climate, but it's nice to practice stepping back from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. Real quick, to completely derail what you just said about stepping back. The trans-acoustic guitar. That was it. That's what it was called. So you can see all those knobs and stuff. It's got like all these things built into the acoustic. That little circle that's here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but that's to the right of the hole. That's like the looper. Like when you start looping, you press that, and that's when it starts playing. It was trippy. They did it. I went to the media day. I got an invite to the media day, and they had all these like companies present to the media and stuff, and they had somebody perform on that, and they were looping, and it was just a microphone. It wasn't hooked up. It didn't seem like it was hooked up to the PA, and it was doing loopers. So I don't know, that was pretty cool. Like that's the stuff I like to see, like pushing the boundaries of tech and where we can go with it. Not necessarily that I would ever buy it, right, or something, but like seeing what's possible and what we can push and do more with and stuff like that. Like the Airwave, awesome. I thought like really cool, lots of fun to use and just inspiring to use. So yeah, I think that for me, it's really cool to see because I love the tech of it, you know, and I don't necessarily need to buy the gear, but I want to see where we're going and what we can do and improve on. And it's like, oh, okay, that's really cool. You know, this is coming. Like maybe that means we'll see more of this and it'll evolve into something even crazier, you know? I want to mention too that real quick, Creshead's thrown a bunch about the SEQTRAK in the chat. So if you're interested about more in the SEQTRAK, we got to keep going because we're running real short on time, but there's more on that there. All right. Anything else on NAMM?
Not on NAMM. I think it's just going to be fun over the next year, like you say, to see where it goes. We'll have to see what happens at Super Booth as well. We've only got until May for that. So let's go on for Community Corner. Let's wrap up the show. Usually we say thanks and love to our patrons halfway through the show, but today we'll do it at the end because that's how we're going to roll for this particular week. We don't do sponsors. We don't have sponsors. We don't do advertising. And it's thanks to our patrons that we are here. So thank you ever so much for being with us. There's a couple of you in the chat this evening or this morning, wherever you happen to be. We really appreciate you. And thank you ever so much for being here and spending your time with us. If you have liked the show and you want to support, obviously we love your presence and we love you coming into the chat every week. If you wanted to go that one step further, you can head across to patreon.com/audionautic. It's a good place to do it. Pledges start at $2.
Yeah, it's you get a lot. There's the additional Discord channels, monthly meetups. You can come on the show, all of that good stuff. Now, Curtis, we had said we were going to do a round robin. Should we just skip it then? Do you want to put that over to next week, or do you want to just do a quick one?
We'll bring it. Let's put it to next week. I want to talk it properly. The round robin itself came from Stilled. From a conversation we happened a couple of weeks back. So I'd like to give it as just desserts and give it the space it needs. We're coming up to an hour. So just one more thing before we go. We'd love to know what you guys took from NAMM. If there's anything in particular that you like. So yeah, head across to our Discord and get that, and we can have a conversation there. While you're at it, we're just over halfway for what we're calling our Project Homebrew. For those who've been around for a while will know this, but if you're new to the channel, our physical distribution network kind of shut down towards the end of last year. And so right now over at Audionautic Records, we are looking for ways to find and do our own physicals in-house. And this is what we're calling Project Homebrew. If you like the artists and the label mates that we have on our roster, we got some really great stuff coming for you this year. If you wanted to support and help us build back up our physical distribution with our CDs, for example, you can also head across to our Patreon or make a donation on our PayPal. Basically, it sounds fancy because Project Homebrew, it sounds pretty cool. It's essentially a printer and some stuff over on my other desk over there, so we can print our own CDs, make our own physicals, and then send them out in some better than normal physical packages. It'll be fun.
Yeah. And we're working. Audionautic's first release for the year is going to be my new album, which is actually going to have some cassettes that we're working with Lars with to do some cassettes. Now, it's separate from Homebrew, but we're excited to try this one out. We've never done the format. So we're going to give that a shot. So if you happen to like that format, we'll have, I think, 10 of them. We're going to make 10 of them. So we're going to give that a shot. And then by all of these samples that I got from NAMM, I'm going to flip on Saturday. So if you're interested, you can check that out. But I do want to just say Smiling Airs has been very contrarian in the chat with most of the things we've covered today. But I think that is a massive understatement of what this thing does from what I've seen of it, an acoustic guitar with a piezo mic. It seems to be doing the stuff internally, like looping, chorus, delay, at least from what I saw. Is it useful? I don't know, but the stuff it was doing seemed pretty cool for like a singer-songwriter to be able to loop sounds and things like that without amplification and stuff. So it's cool tech that I think we could see more advancements of that would be pretty interesting. But yeah, I think that's about it. Cresset says NAMM for me was the BX1. Really nothing amazing other than that. Yeah. And then I want to do a CD album this year too. Yeah, there's ways to do CDs. We can talk about it again. Maybe we revisit it beyond, you know, the crowdfunding. But it's crazy right now as a musician. It's like everything is being like made complicated or more expensive, right? Like we've lost international shipping with Kunaki. So on-demand shipping is kind of out the window for CD and media formats and stuff. And then Spotify changes all the thresholds and stuff. So maybe we need to revisit kind of where we are as musicians, what we can do with formats and things like that in 2025.
Something for something for a couple of weeks. That's not a bad shout. Maybe we'll have to do a spotlight episode for you at some point. Maybe we can tie it onto that, because that will work quite nicely.
Yeah, it's tough now, man. It's crazy how much has changed in just a few years, right? You know,
I know it's completely changed. So it's worth talking about. It's worth keeping out and working these things out together, because the collective brain is better than the individual in that sense. Yeah,
most definitely. Well, with that, we appreciate you hanging out. If you want to talk more, we'll be in the Discord. The link is in the description. I will try. That also has a really small size thing, but I'll try and post that long format video. It's like 2 or 3 minutes of messing with the Stylophone DS-2. So I'll post that there if I'm able to, because it's really cool. And unfortunately, it just couldn't fit in our streaming thing. But yeah, if you want to talk more about all the gear, we're in the Discord week in and week out. If you want to help support the show, you know, patreon.com/audionautic. And then we also have some merch on our Bandcamp. But just hang out is more than enough. So we will be back next week at 11 a.m. Pacific, which I think, it's been a while, I'm out of practice, is what, 7 p.m. UTC?
It is 7 p.m. UTC.
There we go. Nailed it. See, not that out of practice. All right. With that, I'm going to load up the little outro. It's been awesome hanging out with all of you. Good to be back. Sorry I missed a couple weeks. It's been crazy. But yeah, we'll see you next week. Anything else, Curtis?
No, just love to everyone. Thank you ever so much for spending your time with us. You could be anywhere in the world right now. You're supposed to send it with us. It's amazing. We love it. So thank you.
Yeah, with that, all right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.